Hi everyone, so I just started a series on how to build a gaming website. So I got a example here. The website basically just lists out all the games available for the users, and for this list view is also have all sort of filter to filter out the game list results. So for example, we have this filter out by platform and genres and relevance. And if you have more filters, you can click on advanced filter where you can select all sort of fields you want to filter out. And also when you hover on the game, it's kind of shrink out, and if I click on it, the game detail display on the next page. So for this project, I basically just want you guys to take away of how we actually approach a problem and how to implement it in the way that's as close as the way I work in professional environments. And for this series, part one of it, which is in this video, is basically just a project setup and config. And in the next video, we're gonna actually start implementing all of these components in React. And this is gonna be at least 5-part video, and I'm gonna slowly post a video each week for this project, and I hope you guys find it useful. The API we're gonna use is actually from freetogame.com/API/doc. So with this REST API, we're gonna have all the data that we need. Okay, let's get started on setting up this project. So before that, we need to work out what is our dependencies. So our dependencies, because this is gonna be a React project, so our main dependency here are React, React DOM, and for styling, I decided to use style components, and we also gonna use Babel to transpile our code to correct JS5 or whatever that is, depends on what kind of browser support that we have. And because of that, we're gonna have include the Babel polyfill. Now moving on to our dev dependencies. So because this project is gonna mainly use Typescript, so out of the primary dev dependencies is Typescript, and come along with Typescript is all the typings for React, React DOM, style components. All of these gonna be installed as well. For linting, I'm gonna use Eslint, Stylelint, and Prettier, and we also need to do some kind of commit hooks to check the linting that need to follow the standards before we actually commit the code. So because of that, we're gonna install LintStage and Husky. And for our bundler, we're gonna use Webpack, and also we're gonna use webpack-dev-server to hard reload our code, just a way for us to see our change quicker. With all of these dependencies defined, let's get started to config the project. Alright, we're gonna start with making a projects folder. I'm gonna name it free game website, and we're gonna go into this folder, and the first thing I'm gonna do is gonna do yarn init. I'm gonna default everything. Also, we're gonna do a git init. Right, so that's all done, and now we're gonna install our dependency. So previously we already defined our dependency, so now it's just a matter of do yarn add react DOM style components and Babel polyfill. So these are all of our dependencies, and I'm gonna wait for it. Okay, this should be a slash. So next we're gonna install our dev dependency. As we discussed before, we're gonna need Babel to transpile our TypeScript to JavaScript, and I'm gonna install all the relevant presets, and then all the typings for React DOM, and types for style component, and all the Eslint plugin for TypeScript and style components. And also we need to Eslint config Prettier just to avoid the conflicts between Prettier and Eslint. And we also need linting with React and React hooks, Husky, lint state for the pre-commit hooks, and we also need Stylelint for our styling file as well. And lastly, webpack and webpack CLI and webpack-dev-server. So I know there's a lot of dependencies, but we're gonna need all of those just to make our code follow the right standard. And one thing you notice here, we also have Babel loader. This is for webpack loader. It just again helping transpilation from TypeScript to JavaScript. And with all of these dependency defined, I'm gonna hit enter now. So the first thing that we want to config is the TypeScript. So for TypeScript, we have a ts config.json. Okay, ts config.json file. This is a configuration file for TypeScript, and I think got an error log here. Just delete this. Also, we're gonna create a git ignore file. Here I just put no modules, and what else? Maybe this folder build. So we're gonna leave it for now and go back to the ts config. And for the options in the ts config, I have come to a really nice website made by a developer in Australian Post company, and he lists all the options available. These options are available on typescript.com as well, but for now we're gonna copy all of this, and we're gonna decide which options is suitable for our project. Like JSON, I'm gonna paste all of these options, and I'm just gonna fix the spacing. Right, for the basics options, I'm gonna delete all the comments, and we're gonna say yes next. The tag is probably doesn't really matter for now because we're gonna use Babel to transpile our TypeScript. So for now the target is put ES next, whatever that is available. Module common.js, that's fine. For library, I think I'm gonna include all the ES6 and DOM. And I think this option is not really matter because these gonna be override by Babel anyway. Allow.js, we need it. Check.js, basically just reporting errors. JSX, I'm gonna go with React because we're doing React at the moment. Declaration, I probably think we don't need it. Source map, we might need it, but I think I don't need it for this simple project. Output, I don't think we need the out file because we're gonna use webpack anyway, and in webpack we define the output file and output dir. For the root there, I'm gonna say it's gonna our source folder, which we're gonna create later. Remove comment, yes. No emit, yes. We don't need this to be emit the build file or the transpile file because we want Babel to take over. Import helpers, yes. Down level iteration, yes. Isolated modules, I think we need it. I think in Babel, if you want Babel just transpile Typescript, we need this option. Strict, yes. No implicit any, yes. Strict, no checks. Yeah, I think that's all needed. No unused logo, yes. Unused params, yes. Yes. Module resolution, don't need it. Base UL, I don't think we need it. Nope. For now we're gonna default all the types. Synthetic default import, I think we need it. This is basically like instead of import asterisk as React from React, we just can just import React from React basically. All this, we don't use source map for now. Nope, I don't think we need it. Okay, so that's all the options for compiler options. And one thing I need to include is what folder that we want to include for the transpilation. For now, I'm going to just do source, anything in the source folder, and exclude. I'm gonna exclude the no module and all the specs file. Okay, so now we're done with our TypeScript config. Now before we config Babel, let's go back to our null package.json, and we're gonna add script. So for the script for TypeScript, because we're using Babel to transpile TypeScript, and one of the advantage of using Babel is it transpile file very quickly. However, it's gonna basically it's gonna strip off all the typing during transpilation. Hence, there's no typing checks at all when using Babel. So, well, for us to do a type check, we need to explicitly define a script to check the type before we actually commit. So one way of doing that is just use tsc, and we're gonna run tsc before every commit. And now back to the Babel. So for Babel, we're gonna create a Babel config.json, and I'm gonna define presets, and in here I'm gonna declare Babel preset in V. So what Babel preset in V does is when you transpile our code, we can specify the target. For example, I want to target the Chrome browser version 58 and any polyfill that need to transpile that code that's suitable for Chrome 58 it can be applied during transpilation process. So now I'm going to define a target. Like I said before, we're going to target Chrome version 58. You can define IE in other browsers as well. In core.js is actually for polyfill, and we're going to use version 3. So what the use built-in does is when the transpilation happen, it looks through the code and it's only apply suitable polyfill to the source code. So it's not going to use all the polyfills available. It's only use the one that can apply to our source code. So this is really useful option. You don't want to include all the polyfills because polyfills can be really heavy. Now that's done for the Babel preset, and I'm also want to include Babel preset Typescript. This is basically just for Babel to know how to transpile our TypeScript. And Babel preset React, just to know Babel know about JSX and React as well. And the last thing is plugins. So plugins, I think the only plugins that we need is this for the style component. Okay, I think that's pretty much it for Babel config. The next thing that we want to do is the Eslint, just for linting, just make our code nicer and follow the right standard. I'm going to create an Eslint ignore file. And I'm just say modules, no modules, I don't want anything to do with that. This build pack.config. Now we haven't created a pack config yet, but I don't want any linting applied to it because it's gonna be just a simple JSON or simple JS object. And then we're gonna create a config for Eslint, and that can be Eslint RC JSON. And in here, I'm gonna say root equal true. This is basically mean that the root is in this project folder. And for the parser, when the Eslint parsing through our code, we want to use Typescript Eslint parser because 100% our code gonna be Typescript. And then plugins. The only plugin that we're gonna use is Typescript Eslint, and this is gonna include all those necessary Eslint for TypeScript. However, I want to extend some of the linting rules in there. by using Eslint recommended. And I think one of the most popular plugin for TypeScript is, if I remember correctly, it's gonna be add Typescript, Eslint recommended. And we also want some linting for React as well. And also plugin for React hooks. And don't forget the Prettier. And Prettier also come with add TypeScript, Eslint. Okay, so that's pretty much it for linting. One thing we should not forget is go to your package.json and add another rules on lint.ts. So this gonna run Eslint check on all your TypeScript code. Yep, I think that's pretty much for linting. Quickly config the Prettier. So Prettier ignore is basically you don't want to apply any Prettier things that gonna happen on certain folders or certain files. And again, I'm just gonna do more normal tools, build disk, and then I'm gonna create another Prettier file. And this one is actually the config for Prettier. Now I go through all the rules on Prettier documentation website, and I found the config they always use the most is this one, and I just keep using it over and over again in my side project. So I just copy and paste here. Basically, I don't want any parentheses when the argument when there is only one argument, and I always want empty line at the end or any block. And I don't like having semicolons in TypeScript, and every string I'm gonna use single quotes, and I like tabs for space. Yeah, so it's pretty much simple. The third thing I want to do is to config the Stylelint for when you're doing styling a React component. You want your CSS gonna conform to certain rules. So I'm gonna start doing that. So for this, I'm gonna say that our processor, because we're gonna use a style component, so we need to define our processors. And because this is actually not the same as CSS, style component is CSS in JS. Okay, so this is a package that I install. So this is gonna basically just go through all the style components code and then apply the Stylelint accordingly. And I'm gonna use these two Stylelint config recommended. Basically, I just use a basic recommended rules for CSS, and I'm gonna extend that with style components rules. Yeah, I don't actually define any custom rules for this at all. I just like all the recommended rules provided by Stylelint config dev dependency, and that's all what I needed. I don't need anything more fancy than that. And go back to your package.json. Now we have all the lints ready. We just need to define a command to run it. So this is basically going to be the same as lint.ts. However, it's going to be Stylelint. And this, yeah, I think that's pretty much. And for lint, basically, we just want to run yarn lint.ts. Yep. So this basically run TS and CSS linting. That's pretty much. And one thing we need to do as well is to create a commit hook. And in this pre-commit hook, we actually run the linting checks and fix any lint errors that we have. And the one way of doing that is use Husky. Husky is one of the package that I installed previously. So I just declare the hooks. So in the pre-commit hooks, we can apply lint stage. Again, lint stage is one package I installed earlier as well. So lint stage, basically what it does, basically it only apply linting on the change files before you commit. It's not going to apply for entire files and projects, but only the files that you change compared to master. So in lint stage, I want to apply rules for TSX and TS files only, and the commands to do the check is Prettier. So Prettier right basically go apply Prettier check across all the files in stage, and then it try to format those files to a standard, to conform to standard that we config in prettier.rc or prettier.json. And then I'm gonna run lint check after that. So this command gonna basically try to fix all the issues as much as possible. If it can't, then that's fine, because the next command we just run linting check, and if there's an error linting, the pre-commit gonna fail, so no file is gonna commit. And I think that's pretty much it for our project config. Now we're gonna create a source folder, and also I think now we can move on to do the webpack config. webpack.config.json. No, that's the wrong one. Webpack. So in our webpack config, it's basically an webpack, basically a Node.js, and it's gonna take a config object which we're gonna export, and I'm gonna use the Node.js path, and also I'm gonna use a webpack HTML plugin. This is basically just grab our define index HTML, and after the webpack build, it automatically include the bundle file in that HTML. In that index HTML is really nice and convenient way, so we don't have to write any automatic script. Now for the config object, and because we're not gonna deploy this project to production, so we're gonna safely say that the mode is gonna be development. So basically it's not gonna do minification or anything like that for production build. So all the code is not going to be minified, which is good because you can debug if any errors happen in our source code. And the entry for webpack is gonna be our index.tsx file. So entry, basically when you feed a webpack an entry file, webpack gonna look through that entry file and resolve all the dependency for entire in that file. So if this index HTML of mine gonna import all the source code in there, then all the source code gonna be resolved, all the dependencies gonna be resolved and then be bundled into a single file, which is really useful. And the path for webpack build, I'm gonna make our bundle file in the dist folder, and the bundle file name I gonna use name content hash and bundle.js. Basically the name of the file gonna be bundle by default. I think it's gonna be main by default, and content hash it basically, I think it's much more useful in CDN when, so basically when you have a file named bundle.js, how can you tell if there are new changes happen? And one way to tell is the content hash. So when the new change in the bundle.js happen, it's gonna produce new content hash, and Webpack gonna compare the content hash, the new bundle.js compared to the old bundle.js, and if the content hash is different, Webpack gonna know that there's a new file with the new changes. And moving on to module. Module is where we define all our loader. So loader here for us is just a Babel loader. So the Babel loader is what it does. Basically, it's gonna look through all of our TS or TSX file, and I'm gonna say exclude no module. Exclude any no modules, and I'm gonna use Babel loader. So what Babel loader basically does is it's gonna find a Babel config.json file, and use that config and transfer all our TypeScript to JavaScript. And also we need to use Stylelint processor loader for Stylelint as well. So this is basically that is actually do the stylinting check during the build. We probably don't need that, but I just put it here just for sake of completeness. So because Babel here just do transpilation, it doesn't care about linting check or something. You can actually do the type checking in here as well, but I'm gonna leave it here there for now. Leave it out for now. And for plugin, I'm gonna say we're gonna use the HTML plugin that we define above, and it's gonna give it a template. So the template's gonna be the file that we're gonna create. Let's go on. Now moving on to resolve. So for any modules, results is a very nice way for Webpack to resolve the path to the modules that we want. So basically, instead of import no module / library that we want, we just basically just import a library without specifying no modules path in front of it. And also I'm going to make the source folder as a absolute path. This basically means that we don't need to do a relative path imports in our projects. Basically we just import anything directly without specify the /source prefix in any kind of modules in our project, which is pretty cool, right? And it's gonna resolve all of these extension files. So basically when you import a file, we don't need to specify .js extension at the end. Yeah, resolve is actually pretty cool features on Webpack. And for DevTool, I'm gonna use inline source map. So DevTool basically if you want to generate source map or not. For now, I'm gonna generate source map. And this is also a reason why I didn't specify in tsconfig source map, because Webpack can generate this for you. And the context for Webpack is the current directory. Target build. So target similar to Babel. So when you build your code, what is your target application? Because we're gonna do client side, so I'm gonna say web. If you do Node.js, you can target Node. And dev server is a config for webpack dev server. And dev server basically just for development only. Don't use it in production. So for the content base, so the content base is gonna be served from this folder that where the bundle file is put there, and we're gonna expose port 3000. I'm gonna compress the file. Basically what it says, webpack-dev-server gonna serve file to browser in the gzip form, and we're gonna enable hot reloading. Hot reloading basically means that when you make any changes in the source code, it's gonna automatically serve to you in the browser, so you don't need to do any refresh at all. So that's pretty much it for webpack config. And I'm gonna define a command def. So this dev script basically just to start up the webpack dev server. And if you want to build, just run webpack. And in this source folder, I'm gonna create index.html. And in the index.html, I already made it here. So it's gonna include the title, all the metadata, title, and also give a div id equal root for React to bootstrap to. And in the index, again, these just display hey. So just pretty much simple. Now if I go to the terminal and I run all the commands that define package, not JSON now, it should work. So if I do unbuild, it's gonna generate this folder, and it's also include the bundle that we define, that we built, which is somewhere here. I'm not sure what this is. Just delete it. Let's try and rerun it. Yeah, I'm not sure why we have to bundle file. Let's rerun, see any different. Okay, so this is all the code, bundle code, and then the reference to that bundle. And if I run dev, it should run the webpack-dev-server at localhost. Now if we go to localhost 3000, I see the React component rendered. So that's pretty much it for this first video, and we got all the project config set up and it run as expected. So in the next few video we're gonna actually implement the gaming website, and I hope you guys like this video, and if you do, give me a like and share this video and subscribe to my channel for more content like this. Thank you very much, guys.